Welcome to episode 49 of Paris Playbook. Today I'm joined by Lucas Monroe, Division One men's hooper with the Drexel Dragons men's basketball team. Lucas, what's up this Sunday morning before college basketball gets rolling this week? How you doing?
I'm good, man. We're getting ready for practice in a few hours, so just sitting at the gym right now, kind of waiting. But things are ramping up, so I'm pretty excited for the season.
So is like today's practice easier or harder, with games coming up really soon?
I think it'll be easier. This is my first year at Drexel, so we've had some scrimmages and some practices before scrimmages, obviously, but this is my first kind of like weekend before a real game. So I'm assuming it'll be a little bit lighter, but we'll see. We're actually heading over to LaSalle. We play at LaSalle on Tuesday, so we're practicing there today.
Okay, sweet. So did you play other sports growing up, or were you just strictly basketball the whole way?
I played baseball just like most kids, but I played soccer for a really long time. That was like my first love, honestly. So I played that until I was probably like 14. I was never like super serious about it. Like I didn't practice much outside of practice, outside of like team practice. So I guess I never really had that real passion, but I loved to play because all my friends played and I just enjoyed spending time with them.
So you were pretty much always committed to basketball as what you wanted to do in the future.
Yeah. I think as soon as I started playing basketball, like that was it kind of took over. It surpassed soccer and baseball and any other sports that I was kind of interested in. And I realized it was something that I enjoyed doing just on my own. And I like to work out and I like to work on my game a lot when I was younger. Like it was just more fun for me, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, it became pretty serious pretty early.
Yeah. And did your dad have a big influence on you being a former college hooper himself?
Yeah, he did. It was mostly my brother, actually. My brother is 8 years older than me. So naturally, like I wanted to do everything that he did. He played soccer, so I played soccer. And he played basketball, so I played basketball. So when my dad would work him out, I would be on the sideline dribbling and kind of just watching what they were doing and trying to copy them. And I would steal my brother's like basketball clothes and I would wear them around the house just because I wanted to be like him. So yeah, he was kind of the reason that I started playing. He was the reason I did most things when I was younger, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your time at the University of Pennsylvania. You played in 85 games over the 3 seasons. Obviously, COVID was within your time there. You started 38 of those games, and you were a big rebound guy. Looking at your points, and you almost averaged 5 rebounds a game when you were there. We'll start off with what was the hardest adjustment for you? Coming into Division One college basketball. Obviously, it's a whole another animal than anything you'd been used to before.
Yeah, I mean, I think I came in as a freshman. I came into an older team, and they were kind of fresh off an Ivy League championship, 1 year removed from an Ivy League championship. So I came in and it was kind of like figure out how to fit in right away. There's not much of a learning curve for you because, or you don't have much time to have that learning curve because we have so many older guys and like we just kind of need our freshmen to fit in right now for to go at another championship run because we had so many seniors that were kind of the core of the program. So it was really just figuring out a way to fit in. Obviously, college basketball is more physical and top to bottom rosters are significantly more skilled and more talented. So you get used to that, but I got recruited to that level for a reason. So physically, like I felt like I was good enough, but it was really like figuring out what it took for me to get onto the court and what the coaches wanted me to do specifically. Because obviously my role in high school was going to be different than my role in college, like just like for most people. Um, so yeah, it was kind of just figuring out like what success looked like for me specifically on the court with my skill set.
Yeah. And talking about not having much time, I mean, you started off right away, first game of the year against Alabama of all schools. I mean, a
Yeah.
big time SEC school that's had a lot of success in recent years. And you had a really good debut. I mean, is that a pretty, obviously, I'm assuming, memorable game for you being big SEC school, your first game as a college hooper?
Yeah, I think it was either 4 years ago today or 4 years ago yesterday because I just saw a video of us walking out into the courts. I'm not sure if it was for like shoot around that day or for practice the day before. So it's kind of crazy because it just happened a few years ago today. But no, that was huge. I mean, walking out and seeing like the SEC, I think my last high school game was against Penridge High School. So going from Penridge High School, which is just like a school out in the suburbs of Philly, to playing Alabama, and they had Kira Lewis and Herb Jones and like I think a few other NBA guys or top players in the SEC. It was crazy transition, obviously, but we played really well. We won, and we had a pretty good track record against some of those high major teams in what are called bye games. So it wasn't a huge surprise. And honestly, like I went into the game thinking we were going to win. In high school, I always won big games, and I just kind of in my mind like there was no doubt like yeah we're not going to lose this game. It might be hard, but we're not going to lose it. Um, and we didn't. I mean, it was a really good game. Scoring my first point, like I scored my first point in the free throw, and like I just remember that feeling like it was crazy, like shooting a free throw and there's 10,000 people around screaming at you, and I'm in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and like all of it was pretty surreal. Like it was a really fun game, and I did have a pretty good game. I think like I played a lot of minutes and I was on the scouting report, I'm sure, but it's kind of when you haven't really played yet, there's not too much that they can scout you on. So I think I got away with some things just because some of those guys just weren't used to how I played and they didn't really know my strengths and weaknesses yet. So I think that allowed me to have some success like right off the bat.
Yeah. I think what you said about, going into the game thinking you're going to win. I mean, you kind of have to, or why play the game, right? I mean,
Yeah,
nobody plays
exactly.
to lose. I was talking about this with another athlete at a smaller school, and, they had some bigger games. It was in football. He was a quarterback. They had some bigger games against bigger D1 opponents. And he said, we never go into the games like thinking we're going to lose. I mean, you're going to try your hardest to win. And if you have that attitude, why are you playing the game? Like if you
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
win.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a pretty good record against my freshman year. I mean, we won at Alabama, we won at Providence, we beat UCF at a neutral site. We almost beat Villanova at Nova. Played Arizona to a pretty close game. I think they were like number 8 in the country at the time. So like we had some really close games and some wins against some high caliber talent across the country. So I kind of expected like we never went into a game thinking like this team is too good.
Right. And Ivy League basketball, I mean, it's really good basketball. You look at Princeton, what they did last year, Yale, many years, Penn, a lot of the schools, when they get to the NCAA tournament, make really good runs, deep runs. I mean, it's good basketball, so it's to be expected.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you were also a 2-year captain there. I guess, touch on being a leader, as a captain, it's your responsibility to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to. Everyone's working the hardest and the team is meshing good and, a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, so in high school I was a 3-year captain, so I was kind of used to um having a leadership role, like especially being a younger guy. I was kind of used to it. In college is different though. And I think one of the hardest adjustments was coming in as a freshman and being on a really old team and like a lot of seniors that had played significant minutes since they were freshmen and kind of were the core of just what the program had been about for the last few years. And when they left and then COVID hit, I pretty much became the most experienced. Me and 2 other guys were the most experienced guys on the team, and they were both in my class. And that was because we didn't. The Ivy League was the only conference that didn't play. The only Division I conference that didn't play during COVID during the 2021 season. And so none of our seniors that year really came back. And then some of the other freshmen that came in with me had been injured our freshman year, and then some of the sophomores, all of the sophomore class had been injured my freshman year. So my freshman class was like the only class that had really played college basketball on a 19-man roster. So I went from being the youngest guy on the team to basically being the oldest, most experienced dude. So again, like I didn't have that learning curve of like really learning how to be a leader. I kind of just was forced into the role. And we didn't pick captains my sophomore year, obviously, because we didn't have a season. But I think I just kind of stepped into that role naturally. Um, but I mean, it was definitely hard. Like I definitely had to learn a lot, especially being younger. And it was also odd because we weren't playing games, so it's kind of hard to the way you talk about motivating players and like what are we looking forward to and like what are we kind of playing for right now because none of us really would play a meaningful game for another year. So it was definitely an odd time, but yeah, I think it was a good experience. By the time I got to my junior and senior year, like I was kind of used to that role, and guys kind of looked towards me. For advice or just kind of for some sense of direction and what we should be doing. And so I think it helped me out a lot just having that off year, honestly.
Yeah. That next season had to just mean so much more to you than like any other season ever had after not playing to finally get to play again after watching other schools play. It had to mean a lot to get back on the court and compete again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a really tough year. We really picked it up towards the end during Ivy League play, but the beginning of the season, like I said, we had I think we had a 19-man roster, and only three guys had really played Division I basketball before. And it was me and two other guys that were freshmen my freshman year. Um, and so we started off the season and we played the most games in the country throughout the first month. I think we played 13 games in like 28 days, something like that. So we were playing basically a game every other day, like an NBA schedule. And only two of them were at home. So we were traveling, we were coming back, get a COVID test, go get dinner, go back to practice, and then hop on a plane the next day. So we would be home for 5, 6 hours at a time, really just to sleep. So it was a crazy time. And we played, I think, two times. We played 3 and 4 days. We played 3 games in 4 days. And no other team in the country had done that once. And we did that twice. And we had a 4 and 5 days. And we played like 3 or 4 top 75 teams in that stretch. So it was really difficult. It was a really hard time, even though we were so excited having not played in a year. But we just didn't really have time to practice. Once the season started, like we were just going, and didn't have time to practice. And I think we had the third most starting lineups in the country that year, because coach was just trying to figure out like what's a group I can put out there that can be consistent and produce. And it took us a really long time to figure out. And so that was a really tough year, especially just having no experience really on our team. So we definitely struggled, and then figured out how to pick it up later in the year once Ivy League play started, which I guess is all that really matters anyway.
Yeah, tough couple of years if you look at from not playing to then, like you said, just playing like way too much, kind of just
Yeah.
over exerting yourself, and then you don't have time to physically rest up and mentally rest up, and can be awfully draining. Looking back at your career at Penn, is there a game that sticks out as being most memorable?
I mean, the first game at Alabama was obviously just playing your first college game. And I had a pretty good game and we won and it was close. And like playing against NBA players, that was a pretty memorable experience. I think my first game playing against Villanova when Eric Dixon played, because he was my high school teammate, one of my best friends. And he didn't play our freshman year because he redshirted, and then our sophomore year we didn't play. So we didn't get to play each other until we were both juniors. So that was pretty cool. And a lot of people from our community came. But I think honestly, the most memorable games are like the Big Five games. Like those are always really fun. And the Big Five is like the five main school. Well, now six. Drexel's in the Big Five now, but it was the five main schools in Philadelphia: Penn, LaSalle, St. Joe's, Villanova, and Temple. And there's just a big history behind those games, and a lot of the people in the city come out to watch those. And I think those games are honestly the most fun, and those are the most memorable for me.
Right, definitely. So now you're at Drexel. You mentioned that. Was the decision to go there partly because your dad had played there when he played college hoops?
Honestly, I hadn't. I mean, that was in the back of my mind. I was really just looking for the best basketball fit for my last season of college basketball. I really wanted to. At Penn, we only really got 2 opportunities to make it to the tournament. My freshman year got cut short early because of COVID, and then our sophomore year we didn't play. So I only got 2 chances to play in the Ivy League tournament and move on to NCAA tournament. And so my main goal is like I want to win a championship. Like I want to be a part of a team that can compete for a championship. And Drexel, I thought like adding me and with the guys that they had coming back, like we had a really good core. We have the best player in the conference, and we have like a lot of really good talent. And I thought that me coming over here, like I'd be a good addition and I could help them put them over the hump, I guess. Coach Spiker also recruited me in high school, and I've always had a pretty good relationship with him. So it didn't work out originally when I was in high school, but I'm here now, which is nice because I already kind of had that foundation with him, so I didn't really have to build that relationship up because I've known him throughout the years. But yeah, I think just being part of like a winning culture and a winning team was like my main motivation. And then the fact that my dad went there and I get to stay close to home and he gets to still come to my games, like that was obviously big for me. But yeah, I really just wanted to be a part of winning and be a contributor on a winning team.
And Drexel, they made the tournament a few years ago, didn't they?
2021, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some remembering, it's fresh in the program. The coaches and some players know what it's like to be there, know what it takes to get back too. So I mean, that's
Yep.
always helpful. Now that you're a fifth year, obviously, you've been through a lot of adversity without playing, with that season of playing a ton, and being a captain and all these different things. I mean, you can use all that to kind of be a leader. So how do you piece that all together and help, be a leader on a new team?
It's harder than I expected, I guess, because I'm new. So I have to balance being an older guy and helping some of the younger guys and leading and being vocal with. I'm also still learning stuff on my own, and I have to learn from them. I have to learn from the younger guys, just like they have to learn from me. Um, so I'm still kind of finding that balance, but I think just being vocal and one of the reasons they brought me in was just because of my experience, and they weren't a great road team last year, which is usually a result of having like younger guys that are less experienced. So I think like bringing me in, I think that's an area that I can hopefully help them in, just kind of being a calming presence. But I think just being vocal and when I see something, saying it. Being level headed during practice, which is something I have to work on too because I'm an emotional player and like I care a lot, so I can get up and down just like anyone else. But being just a calming presence in games, and especially with them being in the Big Five now, like I'm the only player that's really played Big Five games on the team, so just adding that dynamic to them and helping them understand kind of what those games are about. But I mean, it's no different than I guess being a captain at Penn and being a captain in high school. Like I think just some of the qualities that I think come naturally to me, I think will be helpful for these guys. And they have a really good foundation. Like their older guys are really good about just communicating and being vocal and bringing energy to practice. And so I can kind of just fit along with them and take some things from them, and they can take some things from me, and hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll get a little easier when you start getting into the season a little bit more, start playing some games as a Drexel Dragon. You'll start to get that balance figured out a little bit more. You guys you mentioned before we got on the pod, to start on Tuesday at LaSalle. Philadelphia school. So, obviously a big game right off the get-go. And you guys have some other big games, throughout the season, looking at your schedule: Princeton, West Virginia, Charleston, some schools that have really good basketball history. Looking at all of that, your first game and the schedule ahead, what are the thoughts and kind of feelings right now? I mean, obviously excitement and wanting to get to the tournament and stuff, but obviously you got to take it one game at a time. And so what are the kind of the thoughts and the feelings currently?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's definitely an excitement. Like guys are definitely getting ready to play. This is the first year I've had summer workouts. We don't do that in the Ivy League, so guys usually go off on their own and train in the summer. But so this is the first time I've had like team workouts in the summer, so I'm definitely excited to. I've been going through like summer and going all through this fall, like just get out in front of a real crowd and play against someone other than ourselves. Obviously, we've played a few scrimmages, but I'm excited to play a real game just in front of people and with my teammates and just have that experience for the first time. But I think I also just being an older guy, like and having gone through the hype of like season starting and playing our first game. I also am like calm about it. Like I think I'm kind of relaxed about it and a little bit less anxious than I have been in other years. And I think that's just because I've gone through it so many times, and like each game has its own importance to it, and you can't look past any game. And so right now I don't even know the full schedule. I'm just worried about LaSalle right now, and then I think we play Winthrop after that. So I'm just kind of taking it one game at a time, and like again, just like getting adjusted to kind of their new style. Like I'm still learning our pregame ritual, like our pregame schedule, and like what we're supposed to be doing in there. So like even leading up to tip off, like I'm still kind of learning things about the program and still trying to figure things out and fit in. So I think the approach is like a little bit different than what it has been in other years, where I kind of know exactly what to expect, and I know how Coach Donahue is going to coach. I know how I know kind of his trends throughout the season, and I have that all kind of planned out in my head beforehand. But now I'm kind of just more going with the flow, taking each game one at a time, and I think it's going to be a really good season. I think we have a really good chance to make some noise.
Yeah, and that's the best way to do it. Take it one game at a time. No, don't look too far ahead. You can get so clouded in what's 3 weeks ahead that you forget about what's important right now.
Yeah.
So, who was your favorite basketball player growing up?
Kobe. Kobe was always my favorite player. I watch a lot of like really old games. I used to read basketball books all the time. So I've read a whole bunch of biographies and autobiographies. and I love watching Kobe. Like he's my favorite player. I was like so devastated when he passed away. Like I remember, most people kind of in the basketball world remember where they were and what they were doing when they found out. But yeah, he's always been my favorite player, and I watch a lot of his old games and a lot of his highlights, and I really love just some of his off the court things, or I guess some of like his talks and a lot of the different interviews. Like I love watching those as much as I love watching his games, and just kind of his approach to basketball. I stole a lot from him, and not in my play style, but just in his approach. So um, yeah, Kobe's always been my favorite.
He was a big mentality guy too. I mean, like not just looking at
Yeah.
the basketball side, but the way he carried himself, in the mental side of the game and outside of the game too. So were you a Lakers guy because of Kobe, or were you a 76ers guy?
I've always been like I mean, I'm a Sixers guy, like for sure, a Sixers guy. I've always been a fan of kind of like the historically great franchises. Like I think the NBA is always more fun when the Lakers and Celtics and the Knicks and the Bulls, and the Sixers, like when those teams are like really good, I think the NBA is more fun because those are kind of like the classic rivalries, and those are the teams that have kind of dominated basketball since the NBA started. Although it's nice when a team like the Nuggets wins and they get their first franchise championship. But no, I've always loved the Sixers. Like they've always been the team I root for. But it's nice in general, like when the Lakers and those teams are competing for championships. And I was rooted for Kobe. Unfortunately, like when he was winning his championships, I was kind of, even his last two championships, I was too young and I wasn't really watching basketball that heavily at the time. So I never really got to see him play too much live while he was kind of in his prime, like pre-injury, pre-Achilles injury. But I still enjoyed watching every single game. I remember watching his final game, and like I think I was in ninth grade, and like just crying, like him scoring 60, and like just like me understanding kind of the the magnitude of the moment, and this is like really a living legend, and he's playing his last game, and he scored 60, and it's like I knew at the time like this is probably one of the most amazing sports moments I'll ever watch live. So I remember crying like as a freshman in high school, just watching his last game, like getting so emotional, like everyone else was. Um, so yeah, that was always cool. I always wanted to see Kobe play live, but I never was able to.
Yeah, that would have been awesome to get to see him play live. I mean, just the way, like we mentioned, the way he played the game, the way he carried himself. I mean, it doesn't get much better than the way he did it. He did it right. That's
Yeah.
the way to say it. So at the 76ers, had a other Philly basketball player on. Actually, the episode's not posted yet, but he played D2 ball, and then he played one season at University of Albany, and he's from Philly, Matt Cerruti. And
Matt
we were
Cerruti?
talking,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
Cerruti.
okay, and we were talking about how it's getting kind of hard to trust the process,
Yeah,
trust the
yeah.
process with the 76ers. Do you still trust?
Um, I do because I have to, but it's been tough. Like, I mean, we've had some really good teams that were just underachieving. Like some of even the Ben Simmons teams, like were good enough to make it further than they did, and I think they just weren't old enough yet, or didn't have, I think, more of the leadership on the court to like really win. And I think that's something that like I have a hard time with because of Embiid. Like just some of his like tendencies as a leader and just as a franchise player. It's not the talent level, but it's just taking plays off sometimes, or like showing up not in shape, and just kind of being a little bit lazy sometimes on the court. Like that bothers me a lot as like as a basketball player, and as like someone that's always aspired to be like a professional basketball player. And like I'm known for playing hard, and like that's how I've been able to get by, because I'm not a knockdown shooter and I'm not a 30-point scorer. Like I'm just someone that plays really hard. So like seeing someone as talented as him like take plays off, and like I think he could dominate the way Jokic does, in slightly different ways, but like he can be as dominant on the court. And so seeing him kind of have some of those lazy tendencies, and then Harden's the same way and has just a whole different bag of problems that comes with him. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating. Second round exit like every single year, but I still root for them. Like I always watch their games, and I love the way they're playing right now. I think we're like a piece away from being like a real contender. But even if not, like I think we're a really competitive team. So we'll see. We'll see where that takes us.
Tough to be a true fan that doesn't give up. I mean, it's hard. There's
Yeah,
plenty of people that just bandwagon, they get sick of their team and they leave, but the true
yeah,
fans,
yeah. No, I can never leave the Sixers, man.
Yeah. So do you have any hidden talents? You know, some people, I don't know, they're good at like cartwheels, or they're good at airplanes, or like building models, or like kind of weird stuff that maybe people don't talk about all the time. Like, do you have anything that maybe people don't know, but you're like, I'm super good at this weird thing?
Um, Not like I wouldn't say not nothing really outside of basketball. Like I can spin the finger on all my knuckles and stuff like that. I mean, spin the ball on all my knuckles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can name like almost every single championship team in NBA history and like how many games the series went to. I have a weird I can remember stuff like that. So I guess that's like an odd talent. But
Yeah.
outside of basketball, like I think I'm just like a normal and average person, honestly.
Well, I think the basketball knowledge, like there's a lot of people who are true fans. They really don't know the
Yeah,
history. So it's
yeah.
like that's a skill to be able to remember all that. So yeah, I'd say it's a hidden talent. So we'll end the episode on like what's a bucket list sporting event that you want to go to someday in your life?
Um, I would love to go to a Lakers Celtics NBA Finals game in person. Like a game
Yeah.
seven would be really cool, but like any like a Lakers Celtics NBA Finals game would be like that's like the pinnacle of like basketball. That I'm not actually playing in, that would be like the pinnacle of it. Or a Sixer, obviously like a Sixers championship game, like closeout finals game. But I think just from a historical basketball nerd perspective, like a Lakers Celtics finals game would be really dope.
Yeah, it wouldn't get much better than that. I mean,
Yeah,
two most history, in the history of the game, the rivalry, and the two
yeah,
arguably best franchises ever with some of the best players ever. I mean, it really wouldn't get much better than that. That's the, like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
it's like the pinnacle, it's the peak.
Yeah, I've always been a nerd. I've always been like super fascinated in just basketball history in general, but just like the Lakers and Celtics and like all the different rivalries in NBA history. Like I've always been so fascinated in those. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too sometimes. I like to like dive deep into like looking at guys' stats. Like I like to like look at rosters, basketball, football, hockey, like any sport. Go back to
yeah,
like the 80s, 90s, and like look at guys' stats and like different stuff that other people would probably be like, you've spent hours doing this. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm only like that with basketball, but I'm absolutely like I look at stats and especially when I was younger, not as much now, but when I was like younger, like when I first started to fall in love with basketball, like fourth, fifth grade, like I would always like read stats and like I would watch all these old documentaries on YouTube and I would like find old games. Like I would when I was like 10, I would watch old games from like the 80s and the 90s, like just because I was interested in it. And that's kind of where I learned a lot of the stuff that I know now, like just from being younger and being like super, super curious. So yeah, I've always kind of been like that.
right, it helps you build your basketball IQ. Picking up on different things and doing that extra that other people probably don't think about. They think about
Yeah.
what do I need to do to get better on the court, and maybe they don't think about how reading a biography or watching a YouTube video could help, or watching old games. Like you said, you like to watch a lot of old games, so definitely all little things that can add up and help your game.
Yeah.
Well, Lucas, thanks for coming on the podcast. Exciting time for obviously college basketball players and fans. I mean, it's the best time of the year. You got every sport going at once, and college basketball is just it's so exhilarating. It's one of the best sports I think just across the spectrum, because it's so you never know what's going to happen. I mean, in a
Yep.
college basketball game, it's anybody's game. So good luck with the start of your season, and thanks for coming on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was great to meet you.